This is the ITV Lunchtime News with Nina Hussain.
Good afternoon. Is there no respite from Storm UK? Last night saw the 9th of the season, Storm Isha. The 10th one is on its way tomorrow. That's as the damage, death and disruption of the last 24 hours is still being keenly felt this lunchtime. Police Scotland say a man has died after the car he was travelling in crashed into a fallen tree in Grangemouth. Winds in Scotland reach speeds of 107 miles per hour. Trains and flights have been cancelled and parts of the country are dealing with flooding too. We'll have the latest live from our reporters in Scotland and Northern Ireland. First, Caroline Lewis has the latest.
The weather this morning, a far cry from the long and wild night that came before. But the destruction left by Storm Isha can now be seen. Tens of thousands of homes woke up without power due to widespread damage to the electricity network. Through the night, winds of up to 107 miles per hour were recorded, ripping across the country, bringing down trees onto roads, cars and railways. Elsewhere, heavy downpours battered some parts of the country. The ominous sound of a flood siren in Appleby in Cumbria last night. The town once again submerged. Today, rescue operations got underway for those caught out by the weather.
I wasn't expecting this amount. It was definitely a terrifying experience at the time. But I made it out alive. Everyone's all right. Just let's see how the van's doing.
Commuters this morning facing the aftermath. No trains were running in Scotland. Elsewhere, delays and cancellations. Flights were also impacted. Some were stuck on the tarmac for hours. And those that did take off were in for a bumpy ride. This flight from Munich to Dublin failed to land, instead heading back to Munich. Another flight between Manchester and Stansted ended up in Budapest, while passengers returning to Glasgow from Tenerife were diverted to Cologne.
2 minutes for landing, and the plane really started to shake, and it got quite scary. And just I thought we were still going to land, but the last minute it's just this is it's just the plane went back up, and it came over and told us that it sort of crossed the line for being too dangerous to land.
The worst of Storm Isha may be over, but with Storm Jocelyn coming hot on its heels, the clean-up operation could be a long one. Caroline Lewis, ITV News.
Okay, let's get you the details now. Some of the continued disruption in parts of the country. Many train services in Scotland are still suspended, with delays and some cancellations on several other lines across the UK, along with ongoing flight and ferry issues. More than 20,000 customers are still without power in Northern Ireland, and thousands more are affected in parts of England and Scotland. Let's get the latest from Northern Ireland then, where we can join the UTV reporter Paul Riley, who is in Lisbon this lunchtime. Paul, what's the latest on the impact where you are right now?
Well, Nina, you can probably see behind me, this is one of 1,000 incidents that Northern Ireland Electricity is dealing with this lunchtime. It owns the electricity network. It says the situation is extremely challenging. Now, you just said there's still about 20,000 homes across Northern Ireland without power. Just a few hours ago, it was almost double that. Now, the Department for Infrastructure, which looks after roads in Northern Ireland, says it's received around 1,000 reports about debris and fallen trees. Now, its ability to respond has been hampered somewhat by ongoing industrial action and strike action by public sector workers, but everyone is being told to exercise caution on our roads. In fact, the PSNI, the Police Service for Northern Ireland, during a 12-hour period from yesterday afternoon until early this morning, said it had received around 600 reports related to the storm, and one of those was a serious crash which happened in Limavady in County Londonderry, and we're still waiting for more details on that. Northern Ireland Electricity saying this is a multi-day event, so that means it could roll on for a number of days. It says this is the worst storm Northern Ireland has seen in almost a decade, and as we know, preparations are already being made for that next storm, which is set to land tomorrow.
Well, Wiley, for that update, thank you very much to our Scotland reporter Louise Scott, who joins us from air in the on the southwest coast of Scotland. Louise, what's the situation there this lunchtime?
Well, it's still extremely windy here, despite that yellow weather warning expiring at midday. All through last night, I don't think many of us in Scotland got an uninterrupted sleep. The sound of the wind and rain battering against the windows just seemed to increase. It felt like my home was shaking at some points, but mainly the central belt that seemed to be affected was damaged today. Further north, where that red weather warning was in place, more than 30,000 homes were left without power. Almost 8,700 still remain without power today, and huge disruption across the travel network. Trains were stopped at 7 p.m. last night, and out all of this morning there's still assessment on many of the lines where trees have fallen off and and that's the same on the road network. Some roads were closed today, and an 84-year-old man has died. He was a passenger in a car which hit a fallen tree in Grangerouth. Police were urging people not to travel on the road this morning. They're now saying exercise huge caution as you can see, the wind is still extremely high in parts of the country.
Yeah, absolutely. Louise Scott, stay safe there where you are. We can also hear from our North of England reporter Amy Welsh in Appleby in Westmoreland in Cumbria.
Well, the situation here in Appleby is an awful lot calmer than it was late last night. It was around 9 o'clock that the flood warning siren went off, and that means that people should basically get their sandbags ready and prepare for the worst. In the end, it wasn't actually that bad. The water levels here peaked at around 3.7 metres. That means that the water did spill its banks onto the road, but that most properties did escape flooding. That being said, the Riverside Cafe that's just behind me has suffered the worst of it this morning. Earlier, I spoke to its owner, Vicky Wallace, who told me just how heartbroken she is.
We knew it was coming. Obviously, you can't stop it, but it's going to take days to get us cleaned out and go again, I suppose.
Well, wind speeds reached around 80 miles per hour last night in some parts of the northwest, causing severe travel disruption. Carlisle train station had to close because of flooding, and several lorries actually blew over on the M6 between Sharp and T-Bay, which has caused that stretch of motorway to shut. Sellafield Power Station also closed as a precautionary measure. And Electricity Northwest tell me that 40,000 homes were without power last night, and that includes residents here in Appleby. Electricity Northwest say the difficulty is that in these strong winds, their workmen can't actually get up safely to repair those power lines, and 8,000 people are still not reconnected. The hope is that they will regain power by around 5 o'clock tomorrow, but that is a long time to wait.
Amy Welsh reporting there. Let's go live now to Becky Mantin, who joins us in the ITV weather studio. Becky, what made this particular storm so powerful? Is it climate change?
The thing about climate change, Nina, is that it's really established after the event. We look back and we see a pattern of weather, and then we can attribute it to climate change or not. We have a naturally occurring phenomenon at the moment called El Nino, which is, at its most simple, the water around South America is warmer than it would normally be, and that's adding extra energy into the atmosphere. If you add that onto the warmest year on record last year, those two things are starting to marry up, and definitely we're seeing some very explosive weather phenomenon. So really it's a naturally occurring phenomenon which is being exacerbated by the heating of the earth, and this is the result.
Yeah, an actual perfect storm. Becky, we have seen 9 named storms this season so far. We're expecting the 10th tomorrow. How unusual is that to have so many in such a short space of time?
Well, storm season is around halfway through. So it's too early to say how it's going to look compared to the rest of them, but certainly it's the most active start to storm season on record. It's very unusual to be seeing storms of this magnitude just rattling in one after the other. And we're really hoping that Jocelyn is going to be the last one for a while, but of course only time will tell. But the main impact of Jocelyn, the main strength, will be tomorrow night, and an amber warning has been issued. You must stay up to date with the latest forecast.
Becky Mantin, thank you very much. Thank you. And an all-important full weather forecast follows this programme. An inquest at South Wales Coroner's